Hello, in this lesson I want you to write polynomials in standard form. I want you to add and subtract polynomials. So the vocabulary you're going to come across is polynomial, trinomial, binomial, the degree of a monomial, the degree of a polynomial, the standard form of a polynomial, leading coefficient. We have a lot of different vocabulary words in this first lesson. As a reminder, a polynomial has positive exponents for your variables, and you don't have anything weird. You don't have any absolute values. You don't have any negatives or fraction for variables. You have fraction for numbers, but that's it. Then we look at the degree of a monomial. What happens is I add the exponents within that monomial. So if I got negative 5x squared y cubed, I add the 2 and the 3 for the variables, so that degree is 5. I have 7xy cubed. Remember, it's always a degree of 1 right there, so it's 1 plus 3, which is 4, and so on. Now, if you have a polynomial, you just pick the biggest degree of each monomial. You don't add across a plus sign or a minus sign. When we classify polynomials, you can classify them in two ways. One is by the degree we just talked about. We'll look at this one. So if you have a degree of 0, that's called a constant. You know, there's no variable at all. If you have something to the first power, that's linear. That's what we've been studying the whole year. If you have something to the second power, it's quadratic. It's to the second power. To the third power is cubic. We can also classify polynomials by the number of terms. What we did last chapter, we worked with monomials. That's one term. If you add or subtract two different monomials, that's a binomial. Two terms, like bicycle. Trinomial is 3 terms. These are all polynomials. Poly just means many. Now let's take a look at a couple of problems here. First, I want to determine if it's a polynomial. Then, if it is a polynomial, I want to find the degree and classify it by the number of terms. So I look at the first example 1. Notice, I don't have anything weird. I've got a nice exponent to the first power. So this is a polynomial. Oh, that's way too thick. Let me thin that up a little bit. Now I look at the degree. It's y to the first power. So it's a first degree, which we call linear. So this is linear. I'll say degree equals 1. Notice there are 2 terms, 1, 2. So this is a binomial. So a lot of times we'll say this is a linear binomial. Let's take a look at example 2 here. I've just got a number here, don't I? And a number is a polynomial. So this is a polynomial. And the degree is 0. Because there's no variables. So we call that a constant. There's only one term, so this is a monomial. So a lot of times we refer to this as a constant monomial. Let's take a look at example 3 now. On example 3, notice we got this negative exponent. You can't have a negative exponent for a variable, so this is not a polynomial. Since it's not a polynomial, everything else goes out the window. It doesn't have a degree or the number of terms because it's not a polynomial. Let's take a look at example 4. Notice all my exponents are positive. Maybe we got 2 with like terms here. So maybe let's combine our like terms right away. So I'm going to say 6x cubed plus 5x plus 3. Now all my exponents are positive, so this is a polynomial again. The degree, we pick the biggest one. So the degree of the first term is 3, the degree of the second term is 1, the degree of the third term is 0, so the degree is 3. And a third degree polynomial is a cubic. It has 3 terms, so it's a trinomial. So it's a cubic trinomial by the degree and the number of terms. Now, when you write the standard form of a polynomial, what happens is you're going to write it from the biggest exponent to the smallest exponent based on one variable. Okay? If you have 2 variables, then that becomes different. But we're just going to go from the biggest term to the smallest term in order. If you have 2 of them the same, you got to combine them. And notice, like on the second one, the reason that's no because 8 is not coming first. That the coefficient of my first term, that's 6, that's called my leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient is the coefficient of your first term when it's in standard form.